Well, I think you have to distinguish between what went on 20 or 30 years ago and the situation today. So the authorities, I think, have got across it in recent years, and certainly before I went to the FA, they had put changes in place. And if you looked at it, one would say that, well, of course, you've got lots of youngsters, and it's obvious today, now that we see it all over the place, that in fact, that's where paedophiles congregate, that's where they target. So I would be unsurprised if things like this hadn't gone on in the game in the years when it was unregulated. Today, of course, it's a lot more regulated. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because it's an issue like racism. You can never be complacent about it. You always have to look at it. But today, for example, to work in one of our academies, you've not only got to have the technical competence to teach kids at various ages and levels, you've got to have basically a CRB check. You've got to have, which is renewed every 3 years, you've got to have training in safeguarding, you've got to have first aiding, etc. And the safeguarding is quite comprehensive, in as much that, the kids in our coaches would never go into a dressing room until the kids are all changed, and then they will go in and talk tactics. If a kid gets injured in a training ground, he isn't taken back to the ground by an individual in a car. There's always you always make sure that these situations are avoided. So the situation has changed dramatically, but as I say, it's one of those things that unfortunately has gone on. And if you see the Paul Stewart video, it's a very painful watch.
Yeah, of course, because Paul Stewart's come out since Andy's been speaking. Andy talking with Piers and Susanna yesterday, Mark, saying that he feels like this could be bigger than the Jimmy Savile situation. You've been involved in football at the very, very highest level. How surprised are you about these allegations? And having seen what he said and what we've seen over the last few days, how many more do you think there might be?
Well, I couldn't speculate as to the numbers. I actually played, as a professional, at Crewe Alexandra later in my career. I didn't go through their youth system at the time. And I never came across it as an individual. Again, you have to factor into that. Football's a very sort of macho atmosphere in the dressing room and around the club, so it's not surprising that things like this would have been suppressed. But having said that, football touches so many millions of people that you actually get to the point where you have to expect that a lot of kids have suffered this, and a lot of adults now have gone into adulthood and carried this with them. But I think, as I say, the authorities did react, and I think from memory it was around in the 90s they did react, and they did start to put in place better safeguarding. But football being such a prominent sport means that it has surfaced an issue that you can't be complacent about. And I was a director of British Judo, and in sports like that, again, safeguarding is a massive issue, and I know that sport has an ongoing battle to ensure that the kids that come into the sport are not abused in any way.